Now, we've got quite a challenge in our two studies. Having read through that chapter again, you read through those details and you think, some of us in this audience have got a good handle on this chapter. To those, I will say, this will be very good revision. Some of us would have read through this chapter and thought, I think I've got some kind of understanding here, but some of that detail just leaves me a little bit cold or distant. And some of us in the audience would be reading this perhaps and thinking, I know very little. So we do have a diversity, I'm sure, as in most Christadelphian audiences, when it comes to this book called the Apocalypse. Why is the chapter so challenging? Well, one of the main centerpieces of the chapter is the Great Red Dragon. But of course, that Great Red Dragon changes into another dragon. So in this chapter, we have two dragons. And another centerpiece in this chapter is a woman, clothed with the sun, moon under her feet, 12 stars are over her head. But that woman splits, and one woman runs away from this woman. So you have two women in this chapter. Oh no, the woman that runs away is made up of two women. So we have three women in this chapter. So two dragons and three women. We need to work out how this dragon changes, why this dragon changes, when this dragon changes. We need to work out a woman, how this woman split into two, and then this one that runs away, how is she again split into two? Now, adding to the challenge of the chapter, two dragons, three women, we have verses that do not run chronologically. You have some verses that take you into the future and then bring you back. In fact, there are some verses, one verse, where you might need to chronologically put the end part of the verse at the front of the verse and the front part of the verse at the latter part of the verse. So is anyone in the room that would like to now go out and have a coffee? It's challenging, but can we understand it? Absolutely. Because this is a letter written by our Lord Jesus Christ to his bride. And brothers and sisters, now leading up to the great drama of Revelation 12, which is in fact linked to the last 6 verses of Revelation 6. I mean, in Revelation 6, we have the 6 seals. So many of us in the group would know that the last 6 verses of chapter 6 gives you an overview of the first great earthquake. Pagan Rome rolled away. And to get the detail of the 6th seal, the last 6 verses, we need to couple that with Revelation 12. So we bring Revelation 12 coupled together with the last 6 verses of Revelation 6. Now, when you look at the seal, which we are not, of course, going to look at it in any detail this afternoon, but when you look at these 6 seals moving through, these are leading inexorably to the first great earthquake, the casting out of pagan Rome. As you move through these first 6 seals, these are a fulfillment of the words of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 7. Let's just remind ourselves, brothers and sisters, there might be some in the room that are not perhaps necessarily that familiar with the way in which the seals, the first 6 seals, are a fulfillment of Paul's words in the 2 Thessalonians and chapter 2. So 2 Thessalonians 2, and we read from verse 7. For the mystery of iniquity is already at work in the ecclesia, Paul says. But only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. Now, when this person who is letting, an old English word, so I'm an English company now, you know this before me, I'm a colonialist from Australia. So this is an old English word. He who now letteth is the word restrain. So Paul says there's a secret lawlessness that's moving through the ecclesia right way back there, but it's being restrained. I mean, he who restrains this secret of this mystery of iniquity will do so until he who restrains it is removed. And of course, the restrainer here, isn't it, is pagan Rome. This is the Roman Empire. These are the emperors. And so seals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are the taking away, the details of the taking away of this restrainer. And then when pagan Rome is removed, brothers and sisters, then we have the coming of Constantine, who then brings in the man of sin. So, in summary, seals 1 through 6 are the outworking of the fulfilment of the words of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 7. So you could very well write in that section in there, fulfilled in the first 6 seals. But also, brothers and sisters, as we get to the end of the 6th seal, or the end of Revelation 12, again, a fulfillment of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 7. So let's now go into Revelation 8 verse 1. So the first 6 seals, a fulfillment of 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 7. The restrainer is removed. Pagan Rome is gone. Now the apostasy can blossom. Use that expression, not a nice word to use. It's not a word to use, but yes, now the apostasy can flourish. Now, when we come to Revelation 8 and verse 1, we find this is a fulfillment of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 7. Because in Revelation 8 and verse 1, this is the opening of the 7th seal. So the first great earthquake is gone. Chapter 12 is gone. Now we begin chapter 8 and verse 1. We're AD 324. And in Revelation 8 and verse 1, and when he had opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about the space of half an hour. Silence in the political heavens of Rome. Constantine has taken the west in AD 312. Constantine, after 12 years of wars and wars and wars, has now beaten the dragon, the pagan dragon, and now Constantine is the Christian emperor of the west and the east. And it is AD 324. It is the opening of the 7th seal, and there's silence in the political heavens of Rome for about the space of half an hour. And we're not going to go through that time period. Some of you have got that written in your margin. So in your margins, what is this time period of about the space of half an hour? What have you written there? How many years? 14 years. The tricky bit is it's about the space of half an hour. So it's 14 years, and we're not going to go through how do you get that, because up to, we won't. 14 years, about the space of half an hour. It is the time from when Constantine has now taken the world. AD 324. 14 years later, it is AD 337. The Constantine dies, and there's chaos. There's no more silence. So when you read that verse 1 of chapter 8, Constantine's coming, the 7th seal is open, everything is tranquil politically, socially, and then 14 years later, we'll just turn over the page just so that we do see the connection. We turn the page over and we pick up the record in verse 5. And the angel, chapter 8, verse 5, and the angel took the censer, filled it with the fire of the altar, cast it into the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings. Full stop. We don't read the next bit, because the next bit is years later. There were voices and thunderings and lightnings. AD 337. Constantine is dead. The 14 years of silence in heaven is now past. It's 337 AD. Now, just if you haven't got this noted in your margins, the next little bit of that last verse, and then there was an earthquake. That's AD 361. That's years down the track when Constantine's nephew, Julian, says, what's going on? This Christian empire, there are chaos all over the place. There are bishops in Alexandria. There are bishops in Nicomedia. There are bishops in Constantinople. There are bishops in Rome, all at each other's throat. Is Jesus God? Is Jesus a man? It's chaos. Constantine's sons are trying to divide up the Roman world. It was chaos. Lightnings and thunders and voices after the death of Constantine. And so in AD 361, an earthquake happens. Julian, Constantine's nephew, says, well, if this is Christianity, it's out. And for 2 years, he came in and brought back paganism. Okay? So in Revelation 8 and verse 1, we have a fulfillment of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. The pagan Roman world would suppress the apostasy. It wouldn't allow the apostasy to develop until pagan Rome was removed, and then the development of the apostasy. All right, having said that, brothers and sisters, and having said that, moving through these 6 seals, we get to the conclusion of that verse 3. And here are our 6 or our first 4 seals. And we're going to just now very briefly look at the way in which they spill into a cry that goes up to God in the 5th seal. So as we start the first seal, we read of the white horse, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And the objective of the first seal was to weaken and weaken and weaken and weaken the pagan Roman world, until finally the great earthquake, and it's rolled away in the 6th seal like a scroll. But as this pagan Roman world, 84 years of peace, 31 years of civil war, 24 years of terrible injustice, and 68 years of death. And you get to this 4th seal, and the pagan Roman Empire is like an old shuffly horse, a skinny bred, hardly able to move, and God is weakening and weakening, ready for the apostasy to come into play. But in all the way through this, brothers and sisters and young people, we get to the 5th seal, and a cry goes up. A cry goes up by our brothers and sisters. And they cry, having gone through all of these years of awfulness in the Roman pagan world, the cry goes on, and our brothers and sisters cry with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth, the pagan world? But you know, our brothers and sisters call God a despot. I fancy calling God a despot. How long, O despotes? This is the only time in the book of Revelation where the word despot is used. And here are the brothers and sisters calling God a despot. Why? Why would they refer to God as despotes in this context? Well, the reason, brothers and sisters, is because there was a despot ruling from Rome, and he was Diocletian. And he was the greatest Roman emperor to sit upon the throne since Octavian Augustus, the emperor at the birth of Christ. And this Diocletian was a despot. All Roman emperors before him, they wore the lorette. They wore the coronal wreath. Not him. He wore a diadem. And when Diocletian moved around his palace, he moved around with long flowing robes. And when he walked around with his diadem and his long flowing robes, he walked around like he was gliding on ice. And people would go, is he Roman? He looks more like a cheeky. And he wanted to send that idea out to others. He, brothers and sisters, was not going to allow any thug with a sword to take his empire. He was not going to allow any rich man to come along, as it had done in the past, and open up his wallet and say, well, I've got plenty of money. I think I'll buy the emperorship. No. He wasn't going to allow any crowd or mob to storm his palace. And so he turned his palace into a city. And if you gained audience to this man, unlike in previous times where you approached an emperor, you would go down on your knee, you would put your hand on your chest, you would look and stare the emperor in the eye, you would stand up, you would take a step back, And that's how you address not this man. If you gained audience with this man, you had to lay flat on your face, which I'll not demonstrate. You will lay flat on your face 3 times. And then when you stood up, you were not allowed to look him in the eye. He was a despot, and therefore the hubbub and the murmuring in the marketplaces and in the stalls of this particular empire, they were going, who is the true despot? The Lord God holy and true, or Diocletian unholy and untrue? And our brothers and sisters were crying to God in the face of this man and saying to God, you only are our true despot. Despite the power and the influence of this man, we will not give our hearts to him, although he demands it. We're going to give our hearts to you and only you in the face of terrible persecution. That's why, brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters cry to God, how long does this have to go on? And God would say to our brothers and sisters, you don't have to wait long. There's coming a time when men like that will be eradicated from this world, and that came in the first great earthquake. That came in with the removal of pagan Rome. So, brothers and sisters, this sets the scene up to the content of Revelation 12. It's what Diocletian did in the 4th seal. He was the last emperor of the 4th seal. He was the first emperor of the 5th seal. What Diocletian did in the 4th seal, the Pale Horse, he divided the empire into a tetrarchy, into a rule of 4. So you had an Augusti in the west, and you had an Augusti in the east. And then you had a Junior Caesar. And there we have the Augusti in the west, Maximian, and Constantius, the Junior Caesar. Constantius being the father of Constantine. And you had Diocletian, the Augusti in the east, and Galerius, his understudy, the Junior Caesar, a rule of law. What happened? And I'm just setting the scene here now to bring us into Revelation 12, bridging the gap from the 4th seal. The 5th seal is about to right out. How long? How long is this going to go on for? I'm bridging the gap between the 4th, the 5th seal into the 6th seal or Revelation 12. 4 emperors, 2 Augusti, 2 Junior Caesars, set up by that man, the rule of 4, the tetrarchy. Well, what happened, brothers and sisters, is that Diocletian abdicated from the throne. He got ill and he stepped down. Even though he was ill and he stepped down, he was still pulling the strings of the puppets beneath him. He was still in the background with some influence. But you now had Galerius take the role of the Augusti. Then we had a usurper come on the scene, Maxentius, who ruled in Rome, promising the Christians all of these lovely goodies, and he wheeled his way into Rome. But then we have another person come on the scene, Licinius, the brother-in-law to Constantine. And then we had another person come on the scene, a cruel pagan who hated a Christian with a passion, Maximian. We're not going to go through all this history, but I just want to show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 3 because Revelation 12 demands it. 3. Because in Revelation 12, the pagan dragon with his tail draws the 3rd part of the stars of heaven. We need 3. And so what happened, brothers and sisters, is this. This Augusti disappears, and Constantius now becomes the Augusti. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 2 more to go. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need more to go. We need 3. And Revelation 12 demands it. So, brothers and sisters, Constantius dies, and Constantine, now elected by his men in a fervour of enthusiasm over there in England. This man is not very happy. Galerius is a pagan through and through. He does not like Constantine. He is determined to kill Constantine. How dare you over there in England, elect this man? I'm in charge, says Galerius, and therefore he was very agitated. Well, brothers and sisters, we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 still. So what happens now is that Constantine is about to move down into Rome. But before he does, in 312, Galerius dies in 311. Now we've got 4. Constantine now sweeps down from York in England, and as he comes down, brothers and sisters, what's happening with my little pointer there? I can't get my left and right. So Constantine comes down into, well, just outside of Rome at the Milvian Bridge, and in 312, Constantine beats Maxentius, the pagan emperor, and now, brothers and sisters, we have 3. Constantine, Licinius, and Maximin. And Constantine would at Milvian Bridge, as many of you would know, supposedly has a vision, and the vision that he has, a cross superimposed upon the sun. And he hears a voice, and the voice says, in this sign, conquer. Now, what did he say? What did he put on the shields of his men? Well, what he did, brothers and sisters, is there you have the Greek word for Christ. And the 2 first letters of the Greek word for Christ are the letters chi, rho, X, P. And so Constantine had that symbol, the first 2 letters of the name Christ, painted on the shields of his men. And with that, he marched into Rome and defeated Maxentius. And now, brothers and sisters, this man Constantine, the man-child of Revelation 12, is politically born. Because in Revelation 12, it says the dragon stood there about to devour the child as soon as it was born. Constantine is politically born in 312. He is now the emperor of the West, having marched with that symbol, the labyrinth, the XP, the chi rho. Now the scene is set, brothers and sisters, for Revelation 12. And the detail of the 6th seal, the detail of the first great earthquake of the apocalypse. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. His tail. Well, it's not Constantine's tail because he's not pagan. It's either Licinius, Constantine's brother-in-law, or it's Maximin. So how did it pan out, brothers and sisters? Our brothers and sisters in the 5th seal cried, "How long, O despotes? Holy and true dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell upon the earth." God says, you don't have to wait long. I'm going to roll this pagan Roman words and cast it away. And so, brothers and sisters, we move now into the 6th seal and connecting verses, the last 6 verses of chapter 6 with Revelation chapter 12. Now, just as a little stepping stone into chapter 12, you would be aware of this, that this earthquake is a political earthquake, but of course it is. Some of you will have these 2 quotations in your margin. If some of the young ones don't, it's a very good 2 quotations to write next to this, which show us that the earth and the heavens are respectively, or yes, having reference to people, the earth, and of course, rulers, the heavens. So we won't go back to those 2 quotations, but what I want to do is this. Sometimes people read this section of Revelation chapter 6 and go, oh, this must be talking about Israel. It's talking about a fig tree. This has got to be something to do with Israel. Oh, maybe the holy city is Israel. Maybe the beast is Israel. No. But it's talking with symbolic. It can't be Gentile powers. Well, you might like to make a note of this, brothers and sisters, and that is this quotation. You won't turn it up, but if you go to Isaiah 34 verses 4 through 5, you see the same language used in Isaiah 34 verses 4 to 5, and it's talking in the context of a heaven departing as a scroll, and in the context of a fig tree. And it's not about Israel. It's about Edom. So that's a very good quotation to show that we are not in the context of Israel, but legitimately in the context of a Gentile nation. So you might want to jot that down and have a look at that in your leisure. All right, brothers and sisters. This chapter 12 is the first of the three great earthquakes of the apocalypse. I think all of us in the room would know where the three great earthquakes are. End of chapter 6, end of chapter 11, end of chapter 16. The three great earthquakes. What we do need to make sure is this. We already referred to Revelation 8 and verse 5, when there were voices and thunderings and lightnings, AD 337, when Constantine died. And then in AD 361, there was an earthquake, a little earthquake, a 2-year removal of Christianity and the incoming of paganism. So this little earthquake here is not number 3. Brothers and sisters, young people, just also note Revelation 11, verse 19. Let's just turn it up very quickly. Make sure that we cover that. So if some of the younger ones or the younger ones in the truth are looking and say, the three great earthquakes, yep, chapter 6, chapter 11, chapter 16. Well, what about this one in Revelation 11 and toward the end of the chapter? Now, just in passing, verse 13, chapter 11, we did this at the Bible school. Verse 13, the same hour there was a great earthquake. This is the second great earthquake of the apocalypse. This is the French Revolution. Just put that to one side. Now have a look at verse 19 of Revelation 11. And the temple of God was opened in heaven. And there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament, and there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. Now, some of you will have in your margin, this is exactly the same earthquake as in Revelation 16. This is the earthquake between Armageddon and the beginning of the millennium. So this one, although it doesn't say a great earthquake, it certainly says great hail, which is the language of Revelation 16. So just a little note, in case we trip over that when we're doing our readings. That earthquake at the end of chapter 11 is the third great earthquake referred to in chapter 16. All right? Who didn't have that in their margin to start with? Well, good. That's excellent. So let's start somewhere. All right. Okay, brothers and sisters. Skip through this. Time is the enemy. Right. Linking the last 6 verses of chapter 6, the first great earthquake, to chapter 12. They are hand in glove. They are talking about the same event. Let's have a look at a chart here to show you the similarity of language. In chapter 6, we have in verse 12 a great earthquake. The correlation, or the parallel to that, is in Revelation 12 in verse 7. Paganism cast out. Michael, he who like God, Constantine. So there is the comparison. There is the same event that's taking place. We have the language in verse 13 of chapter 6. The stars of heaven fell to the earth. The pagan Roman administration was demolished. But in verse 4 of chapter 12, the dragon draws the third part of the stars of heaven. You have similar language. In Revelation 6 and verse 12, you have the sun blackened and the moon turned to blood. In verse 1 of chapter 12, the sun's back, not black, it's back. The moon is not blood anymore, it is now brightly burning under the feet of this woman. So here's a woman now clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. And then in Revelation 6, you have these people running around saying, fall on us, hide us from the face of him that sitteth upon the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. These are the pagans running away from Constantine and his army. And in Revelation 12, you have another group saying, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. So you can see we have a legitimacy in drawing the last 6 verses of chapter 6 into Revelation and chapter 12. All right, brothers and sisters, Revelation 12, and I know you won't see that text at this stage, doesn't matter. I'm just going to highlight some colours. The hub of this chapter, war in the political heavens, war for Rome. There was war in heaven. It wasn't just one war. This went on year after year after year. This went on, brothers and sisters, from AD 312 to AD 324, Revelation 8, verse 1. And it says there that Michael, Constantine, and his army fought against Licinius, his brother-in-law. Licinius is the major character, the major antagonist in this against Constantine. So Constantine and his brother-in-law are there featured in this verse. Constantine and Licinius fought it out year after year. And then finally, Licinius, the pagan dragon, was cast out, that old serpent. Now, brothers and sisters, just so we understand the content of this chapter, it's imperative that we understand the 2 dragons. When you're reading through this, if you don't have this coloured in, there's a pagan dragon and there's a Christian dragon. You've got to do the same thing with the women. You've got to colour in 3 different women. Otherwise, you get all confusion. And where am I here? Who's this? So now, there are the colours of the pagan dragon. So there you go. If you were to colour that in, just give you a minute for those who are, was that gone off the screen, has it? Oh, okay. We'll just leave that there. But now, if you want to enter into that little colouring exercise now, please do. I'll just give you a couple of seconds for those who would like to colour that in, because in a moment we're going to flick over and see a Christian dragon. We'll colour that in a different colour, and that helps to allow this chapter to open up. Give you a copy of these slides if you want to. If anyone would like a copy of all these, we certainly can make them available. So what I'll do, brothers and sisters, I will just flick this up here and just allow you, if you so desire, to colour the rest in. So we have, I think most of us have kind of got that down there. Let's now just, 17 little coloured squares in there, you've got the right amount. The great red dragon. Now we're going to finish our study on this note. That up. There is the Christian dragon. The dragon has changed from pagan to Christian. Constantine now is an adversary against the brothers and sisters. So he's the man-child. He's the Michael. He's the serpent in verse 14, the serpent in verse 15. He's the dragon in verse 16 and 17. Is there one down the bottom here? No. So I'll leave that there and I'll just get you to colour those in. Now you've got clearly delineated in this chapter the 2 dragons. One disappears and a Christian dragon comes in on the scene. How do we prove this is Rome? We have a dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. Where would I go to prove that this is Rome? Somebody says to you, Rome, come on. Michael, no way. How can I prove this is Rome? Where would I go? How about Revelation 17? We'll finish on this note. Revelation 17. We've got 7 heads and 10 horns. So we go to Revelation 17. We pick up the verse in verse 9. Some of you, this is old territory, but I wonder whether we'll be able to explain this. Now, brothers and sisters, so I just got your attention right now. You just turned up to Revelation 17 and verse 9. I'm going to say something here. This is what I want you to grasp. The 7 heads are 7 forms of government. By the fallen, one is yet to come. When he comes, he must continue a short space. The one that was and is not, even hears the 8 and is of the 7 and goeth into perdition. I want us to clearly understand that before we leave today. By the fall, one is yet to come. When he comes, he must continue a short space. The one that was and is not, even he is the 8 and the 7, and goeth into perdition. Look how easy this is. It's not a quadratic equation. Look how easy this is. Well, the first thing we see to prove this is Rome is the geographic location. Well, this is easy. This is the simple bit. The woman that thou sawest is one who sits among 7 hills. The 7 hills are 7 mountains upon which the woman sits. Now, we've seen this coin, Roma, and there's a woman sitting among 7 hills or 7 mountains. But Rome's not the only city that sits among 7 hills. So that's not enough proof for me. This, brothers and sisters, is amazing. Verse 10, there are 7 forms of government. This is the political identification of this beast, this 7-headed beast. And then we read in these verses, John, 7 forms of government. I want to let you know who this monster is with the 7 heads. 7 forms of government. 5 are fallen, and 5 forms of government had been in existence prior to AD 96, and those 5 forms of government were regal, consular, dictatorial, decemviral, tribunitian. 700 years BC, Rome was ruled over by a king. 500 BC, Rome became a republic, and they were ruled over by 2 consuls. Yes, they had the Senate. People could speak through the Senate on matters of legislation. But they had 2 consuls ruling as Rome was a republic. But every now and then they had social upheaval. They had conflict between 2 classes of people. And every now and then, Rome had to bring in a dictator to sort out internal squabbles or issues on the border. So Rome had a dictatorial form of government. Well, there was still some chaos going on in Rome. And so they said, let's go across to Greece. Find out how they did it. So they brought back 10 laws, the rule of 10, decemviral. Still had their turmoils, and some people said, no, we want to have a better form of government. So the plebeian class of people pushed their tribunes and tribunitial form of government. 5 forms of government had existed. John, one form of government is, when John was there in AD 96, the imperial emperors ruled in Rome. And then John, the other one is yet to come. The Goths came in and ruled in Rome. Goths, barbarians, but they loved the Roman ways. So in came the Goths, and they ruled in Rome, dressed up in all the Roman regalia, even said to the emperor over in Constantinople, we love Rome, don't kick us out, we'll do what you want us to do. So the Goths ruled in Rome for 60 years. When he comes, the 7th head, he's going to continue a short state for 60 years. Now, that's the easy bit. John, 7 heads, 7 forms of government. 5 are fallen, 1 is imperial, 1 is yet to come. When he comes, he must continue a short space. How are your heads so far? You with us? Okay, that's the easy bit. This is the tricky bit. The one that was and is not, even is the 8 and of the 7 and goeth into perdition. Now have a look at this one. How easy this is. 5 are fallen, 1 is, that's where John is. The other is not yet come. The 7th head is not yet come. When the Goths do come, they'll only continue for 60 years. Okay, 5 are fallen, 1 is yet to come. John, go over there and stand there in the future with the Goths. Now, John, look back. John's here. The one that was, because John's here. The one that was and is not because he's here. Even he is the 8 and is one of the 7. Simple as that. And if you want a lovely cross-reference, brothers and sisters, just turn up to Revelation 13 and verse 3. The one that was and is not, because John's looking back, there's a resurrection, there's a re-emergence of the imperial head coming after the Goths, way after the Goths, not straight away. Revelation 13 and verse 3. And I saw one of his heads the sixth end, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and he became the eighth. Right there, brothers and sisters, Revelation 13 and verse 3. What an amazing book this is. Yes, it's history. Yes, it requires a little bit of math to work it out. But what an astounding thing. So, brothers and sisters, we are then in our next study, we wrap this one up now. In our next study, we're going to put our both feet in Revelation chapter 12, walk through the rest of Revelation 12, and see this amazing drama as it unfolds, as this war goes on between Constantine and his brother-in-law, and we see these women involved in this chapter. Amazingly, the way in which God, our God in heaven, places this on record to thrill you and me, to prove to you and me unequivocally that this is, in fact, the Word of God.